Hello, my name is Victoria Jurado, and I'm here to talk to you about the losing war, substance abuse. 16-year-old Arkham boy found dead of suspected heroin overdose. 16 years old, a fresh life, full of potential, just to be taken away because of substance abuse. Every day, the fatality rate due to substance abuse grows. In 2015, the number of fatalities involving substance abuse was over 50,000. Even with this many lives impacted because of substance abuse, Americans don't seem to do anything but keep it a secret. Substance abuse isn't something to be ashamed of. Substance abuse has been proven to be a disease. Addiction is a disease. And just like any disease, addiction needs treatment. Instead of shaming people for being addicts and using drugs, our country needs to find ways to help people that have substance abuse problems and prevent our younger generations from raising the number of people struggling with addiction. Substance abuse is something that affects those who are not suffering, even those who are not suffering from addiction. If you have lost a friend or a family member due to substance abuse, you have already been touched by this terrible killer. The substance abuse problem in America is something that is very close to home for me. Even though I have never used drugs in my life, and I don't ever plan to use drugs in my life, somebody that was very close to me was an addict. My baby's father was addicted to meth. I watched this drug take over him. I watched it transform him. And because of this, I lost my partner, and my 2-year-old son lost his father. Why? Why does my son have to suffer the consequences of losing his father because of a drug addiction? Many times he tried reaching out for help, and I blame myself sometimes because I didn't help him. His mother, his family, they shamed him. They kicked him out of their family, of their lives. I kicked him out. I couldn't handle it anymore. But I didn't see that he needed help. We do not see these people as people who need help, as people in need. Instead, we see these people that are suffering from addiction as criminals, as somebody that we want to outcast from our community. After all, they don't do much but hurt others. Many Americans just view addicts and substance abusers as a burden. So by shunning these addicts and not giving them help, we are allowing them to kill off their own population by overdosing. But isn't that what we want? After all, they don't do much but hurt us. Anyone with a heart would be appalled to hear a comment like that. So then why are we not doing anything to save these people? Why do we continue to allow this substance abuse mortality rate to increase? Substance abuse is a tough battle, but it is not impossible to overcome. We are losing the war against addiction, but I refuse to keep losing those that I love. Substance abuse touches many outside souls. There are people who should especially stand up. These people are the people who should especially stand up and fight this war for those that they have lost. Those who are consumed by addiction can no longer fight this war. It is up to us to fight for them. First, let us see how many people in America are actually impacted by substance abuse and addiction. If a person uses drugs, first of all, this includes, but is not limited to, opioids, stimulants, hallucinogens, amphetamines, marijuana, or inhalants. No matter how often they use this drug, or how much of this drug they use, they are already touched by substance abuse. This issue touches you because you are growing and becoming addicted to this drug. If somebody knows a loved one who uses drugs, they are also affected by this growing substance abuse issue. This is because they witness what drugs do to a person. Many drugs make people violent, even to those that they care about. Someone might be touched by substance abuse by being in a relationship, like I was, with somebody who was addicted to drugs. This could cause domestic violence, and a lot of times, the other person, not the abuser, ends up dead. Many of the news articles recently consist of infants or children who witness parents overdose, and this is very heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to read these articles and watch these videos of these poor innocent children suffering because of their parents' addiction. Here's just a quick.
Mi amor, yo tengo una emergencia en el Family Dollar de la 114.
You can hear her crying,
Okay.
very scared. Because all children do is love their parents. She doesn't know.
Uy, se está volteando los ojos. ¿Qué dicen ellos?
Transfiriéndome.
¿Vienen?
It's heartbreaking how they could let it get that far, that their children have to witness this. If anybody has lost a loved one because of substance abuse or overdose, they are also touched by the war that we are fighting against substance abuse. Even if people lose somebody, let's say a car accident, and the driver of the other car was under the influence of drugs. They crash, the other person was completely sober, never used drugs, but they die. The families of people like that, are also impacted by substance abuse. The list is endless, but these are the three main categories that most people affected by substance abuse fall under. But the future is still full of possibilities. Our future generations can still be affected by substance abuse if we do not find ways to overcome this issue. We need to win this battle. Addiction and substance abuse have already taken many of our loved ones. In 2011, there were approximately 20 million people who suffered from addiction. By 2015, that number doubled to 40 million Americans suffering from addiction. You might ask, if substance abuse has been winning this war all along, what can I do to help? How will I be able to change the outcome? The biggest things that Americans can do to lower the number of people affected by substance abuse is to help those who are already suffering from addiction. Like I mentioned before, addiction is a disease, and just like any disease, it needs treatment. It won't go away on its own. This could include helping them find a rehab place, encouraging them to go to rehab. Even medicines, taking medications from a prescribed doctor, even that could help. People who are recovering addicts benefit from support. Instead of making people feel alone or bad about themselves for being addicted to drugs, we should encourage them to want to get help. Addiction should not have to be faced alone. Our children are the future of America. Unfortunately, people have began to use drugs at a very young age. Children as young as 12 years old have been reported of using drugs or have been exposed to drugs. Like that little girl. If she grows up in a home like this, watching her parents kill themselves, abuse these drugs, overdose, she's going to think that's normal. but it's not. But in her eyes, she'll grow up and she won't mind tasting the drugs. She won't mind experimenting. And that's just another person to add to the statistics. The easiest way to prevent our children from becoming victims of substance abuse is by educating them. I believe that schools do not educate our children well enough about the dangers of substance abuse. I feel like stronger programs are needed. And at a younger age, younger children seem to understand more than we think. Younger children need to be taught about the dangers of drugs, like in elementary school. I remember not learning about this until I was in middle school. But by then, in this generation, by middle school, people are already smoking marijuana. It's too late. We need to start young. By educating them at a younger age, they are already exposed to the dangers and consequences of drugs before they can even access the drugs. Another way that Americans can help prevent and decrease the number of victims that we have due to substance abuse is by having stricter regulations at the border. The transportation of drugs is indeed illegal, but the cartels have found simple ways to be able to transport the drugs to America. It is said that our heroin supply mostly comes from South America and Mexico. And it is also said that without the drug transportation from Mexico to the United States, the Mexican economy would fall. So this is something that they do to profit them, but it destroys our community. If we had stronger regulations, I feel like if we had more border patrol people to know what to look, to search harder, we could somehow decrease the supply to the United States, making it harder for these addicts or for new people to get these drugs. And since the new people would have a harder time accessing these drugs, it would be less of a chance that they would want to try the drugs anyways. To conclude this speech, I want to say that substance abuse is indeed overlooked. It is something that Americans have closed their eyes to. This disease is killing our population, and we aren't doing anything to help, to stop it. Substance abuse not only affects the addicts, but the people around them as well. The killer does not discriminate. You could be rich, poor, live in a city, be homeless, male, female, black or white, rich, poor, educated, not educated. Addiction strikes everybody. Even people, like I said, who come from families who have never used drugs would be impacted if they lost someone because of somebody else who was addicted to drugs. With many people involved, it's shocking to me to see that this issue is not being addressed the way it should. By simply supporting an addict and encouraging them to get help, this could make a huge difference. Educating our future generations about drugs and substance abuse can also impact our future generations and decrease this mortality rate and the rate of how many addicts we have. America has turned a blind eye to addiction, according to the U.S. News, and I completely agree with this statement. This is a growing issue that is taking over our nation, and I refuse to keep losing this war. I believe that it is time to put an end to this fast-growing substance abuse issue. I believe that it is time to stand up for all of these people that we have lost. It's time to take back our loved ones that have already been taken over by addiction. It's time to fight this war. For us, for those that we have lost, and for our future generations. Are you willing to fight with me? Thank you very much for listening to my speech, and I hope you enjoyed it.